My name is Andrew Basso, the escapologist.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
That video got me excited already.
I know.
So cool.
I'm Todd, Chelsea, and Jen. Thank you guys for spending your Saturday or Sunday evening with us. Jen, people have been asking, how can they get in touch with you in case they want a reading? I want to get to that real quick too.
So you can visit my website, thedetroitwitch.com, and you can book an appointment straight through the website, or you can also shoot me an email at thedetroitwitch@gmail.com. And if all else fails, you can reach out to me through my Facebook or Instagram at The Detroit Witch as well.
Excellent. So, Chelsea, you have some events coming up too. Where can people get a hold of you? And I know you have some stuff coming up at the Hensdale House.
Yeah, you can head to my website, chelseagalebuffalo.com, for all events, podcasts, and how to book. I'm booked pretty far out because I'll be doing some traveling and such. But if all else fails again, you can contact me through Facebook, but my website should be okay.
Excellent. And tonight we have a really, really, really great guest. He's a friend of mine. He's known as the world's greatest escapologist.
So crazy.
He's traveled the world on tour with the Illusionists. They were at Broadway. He was actually in Detroit, I think in 2016 or 2017. Let's bring in Andrew Basso. I think he's there.
See his name.
Disappeared. Andrew.
Hello, Todd. Hello, Chelsea. Hello, Jenny. Ciao.
Hello. Welcome.
How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm fantastic. Thank you. I'm in a very remote area of Italy right now, so the connection may not be as perfect, but thank you very much for having me with you tonight.
We're excited to talk to you. Let's just jump right into it. We always ask all of our guests, how do they get into their profession? What started you, or what interested you in magic when you were growing up?
It started very early. I was 7 years old, and it happened in a little town here in the northern part of Italy. I was with my parents, and we were walking in Borgo Valsugana. This is where I grew up. A very little town. Nothing much really happens during the year, and we see a tent of a circus. And for me, was the biggest event I've ever witnessed in my life, to see this white and red stripes tent. And I, begged my father to go in, and they took me in, and I remember smelling the popcorns, a little bit of the animals, of course. And, when I entered that tent, for me was opening a new world. And when I saw the performers, I felt I want to be part of this world of the extraordinary, people with incredible abilities, people dressing up in a very strange way. So, I mean, they were special to me. And I remember the feeling of the acrobats when they were flying to the air. My stomach would stop for a second, my breath, because I was thinking, what if if they're gonna fall from the jump? And so that was my first approach, where I actually felt I want to be part of that world. And not long after, I was with my mother, and we saw a magician. He had a little table. He was doing some little magic for the people walking by. And at some point, he called my mother to assist, and he gave her one red ball to hold in the hand. And then he took the other one. He made his ball disappear, and when she opened, she had two. And if you knew my mother, she will look like Morticia Adams. Beautiful woman, but very with that kind of face.
Right.
And, she would rarely smile, especially when I was a kid, because I was, I was a terrible kid, creating issues every 5 seconds. So she was always looking after me. And so seeing her face in that moment of joy and wonder, that meant a lot to me. And so that was the moment where in my brain there was an explosion, and it was very clear that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, to create that sense of wonder in other people's eyes.
That's awesome.
That's great to start that young, to have that kind of ambition. Do you remember when the first time you performed? Who was it? Who'd you perform for? Your parents, your family, friends?
Yeah, definitely my parents, definitely my father. My mother didn't have the patience to look at me, for 5 times in a row, asking her to pick a card, and I wasn't able to find it. And so my father definitely has been my first, victim, I would say. And of course, friends after, of course. But I mean, I was a strange kid back then. I had this weird interest. I was not playing soccer, and 99.9% of kids in Italy play soccer, and I had no interest in playing. So anytime, a friend, a room, kids from school would come over, I would not play with them at what they wanted. I want them to be my spectators, so they would become new victims for my magic. So, soon enough they stopped coming, and so most of my time I was, rehearsing by myself and learning my magic. So definitely, I grew up, in my room with the books of magic, I would say.
I think all of us have that in common. I kind of grew up with weird habits. I mean, I'm into the paranormal, and Jen and Chelsea are psychics. You know what I mean? So
Not normal.
To hone our craft and do the things we want to do, you have to have that. Well, even as a child, because people will bully you and think, "Oh, this is a weirdo." We just push forward. I think all of us, that's kind of our story, to push forward to where we are today. But it's kind of unique that we all, different backgrounds, different talents and stuff, but we all kind of had the same issues and challenges, that we weren't interested in the same stuff as everyone else. And I think that's what defined us as being different, but in a positive way, I think. I don't know. I'm just weird.
I think positive. You define who you are as a person, and as you get older, I mean, look where he is now. He grew up basically in his room by himself, and his father, because mom didn't have patience, and here we are. How many years later. I think it's very intriguing. I mean, I was always interested in magic. I've seen a hypnotist, and the stuff that I've seen, it's very intriguing. So
there's so many layers to magic too. I mean, there's the performance aspect of it, but then there's the really deep stuff too, being able to kind of control and manipulate your reality and in the world around you. And so it's so fascinating to see all the different layers of it, and how far you can grow when you really dive into a profession like that.
fascination is like the key word to that in general. Like, it's just, you think about it, how many layers, in depth, who can do what, how do you even do it? Is your mind being manipulated? What is happening? You know, but it's so intriguing.
It is, and
especially as a kid.
Some of the stuff that you do, Andrew, is physically challenging too, I think. And you train. I've seen some of your videos and stuff. You train very, very hard. Do you train year round to prepare yourself to perform?
Well, it's very specific. Of course, for those who don't know my journey, you know, I started with magic, and then the influence of Houdini and, you know, the art of escape. When I was 13, 14, I felt, you know, I think as any other young boy, you know, having the flavor, the desire to do something that your mom does not want you to do, of course. And in my case, was choosing the dangerous side of magic that is called escapology. So reading about this man, Harry Houdini, you know, jumping in handcuffs from bridges into, you know, rivers, or being chained close into a box, then he was thrown into a lake, things like that was very fascinating to me. And so I started to take that journey. And to answer your question, for example, now there is a series of shows I'm going to do in Madrid, Spain, from next week. And so the show business, the entertainment industry in some part of the world starts to move. So this is very good news for the entertainment industry during these challenging times. And so I'm going to perform the water torture cell. That is something you've seen in the video in the beginning, where I'm upside down in the tank of water, and I need to hold my breath for 3 to 4 minutes there. So to be able to do that in the performance, especially after 1 year that I've not been performing because of the COVID situation, I need to train and get ready for it. So pretty much what I do, I practice all year long, but then when you get closer to a specific event, I have a much more, intense schedule, because I need to bring up all the skills and be ready for it.
What's been your hardest act to perfect? What's been the toughest one for you, most challenging? Because you're like Houdini 2.0. I mean, you do everything Houdini does, but I think a more extreme level, honestly, because, you know, everything's changed now. There's cameras everywhere, technology, the strength of the chain, you know, everything's changed to when he performed. So what's been your most challenging act that you've had to perfect?
I think it's every act, it's still in a development process, because even if I've done the same act in hundreds of occasions, you know, when I'm on tour, I perform in 10 months out of a year, I can perform, you know, up to 300 shows. So that means a lot of performances. And even if, especially in the US tours, where the show, it's made of so many people that are part of it, technicians, light designers, you know, everything to be perfect needs to be right there at the right moment. And so your act, you cannot change it from one day to the other. You're gonna change a little bit, and over time is gonna change a lot. So still now I would say that the act is developing and hopefully getting better, because the audience, it's what makes it better every time, you know, being able to feel the audience, and you know, if that moment was particularly strong for them, and so you work on that specific moment. So I mean, to perform water cell on stage for the first time, and that was at the Sydney Opera House in Australia back in 2012. You know, before that I spent 7 years working on the act.
Wow, that's a long time.
I mean, to learn the skills, you know, being able to pick the handcuffs was one thing. Picking the handcuffs upside down was another one. Then doing it blindfolded, and then doing it in the water, you know, and then holding your breath underwater for 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then 3 minutes, then up to 7 minutes. Because one thing is when you train and you're not doing anything, you're not under stress conditions of a performance, you're not in the tank, you're not upside down, you're just in, let's say, in a swimming pool, you're more relaxed. So, and you're not consuming as much oxygen when you don't have all these stress factors. So you need to build up more time, because in the moment you're gonna have stress factors, those are gonna cut your time underwater up to 50%. So to be able to do the actual act that is 3 to 4 minutes long, I needed to train to hold my breath for 7 to 8 minutes.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's mind-boggling of how you could do that, but it's crazy. I mean, I've watched a lot of your videos. It's crazy how you can actually adapt yourself to each act, where like the viewers like us are like, is he like, I can't even do that. But when you adapt to it and you work on it, it's beyond amazing to see what you can do.
How do
Thank
you
you.
prepare mentally to hold your breath for that long? What do you tell yourself to get into that mind frame? Because I feel like I would not be able to do that.
I'm sure, Jenny, you could learn how to hold your breath, at least double the time that you think you can do now, I'm sure. The mental aspect, and it's very interesting you made this question, Jenny, because actually people think, oh, you must have very big lungs to be able to do that, or, are you a good swimmer? And actually the mental aspect, it's much more important than any physical training, because technically what you need to learn, the school I comes from a world champion of the breath holding world. Okay, he's from Italy. He's called Umberto Pellizzari. He's a master, and he founded a school, and two of his teachers are my trainers, my mentors on this, and I've been training with them. And I learned with them how to lower my heart rate through a series of breathing techniques and relaxation techniques. So technically, to explain it in simple words, they taught me how to turn off all the buttons of my body. So when I'm in the tank, and I focus only on that specific skill of escaping the handcuffs. And so I need to turn off those buttons that may consume oxygen. So it's muscular tension. And most of keeping my mind focused and not thinking about what if it goes wrong, don't let panic kick in, all those stuff. So mentally, how I prepare has been a step-by-step thing, because I can tell you, when you are upside down over a tank and you're about to go in, as you get lowered in and you're upside down, and every side you try to touch, you feel there is a wall. So you feel this claustrophobic feeling and you are not breathing. So it's very unnatural. And of course, fear kicks in. I mean, I'm human as anybody else. So I felt fear. And so from that point, the training was how to get in control of all those aspects of fear. So I'm in control of all of those. And it's not fear controlling me, it's me controlling my fear.
You're fearless. I love it. It's the best way to go through life.
I mean, and plus, you have the adrenaline. I'm sure the crowd, and I mean, you're excited too. It's like you have to control so many different emotions and feelings just so you can pull this off safely and get out alive. It blows my mind.
There is also that aspect, because of course you walk on stage, you are about to do what you love, you have an audience, and there are big audiences, and so there is also that effect, the adrenaline that kicks in, the performance anxiety, and all those things are things that I need to turn off, because in the moment I cannot let my heart beat faster. I cannot be excited. So in fact, my very first performance, so the water cell, I trained and I performed it for a TV show. But TV shows, recorded TV shows, you can stop, you can wait. We're gonna film. Let's do it again. You can take your time. When it's live, it's live. And so I was technically prepared to do the act, but when I went to the Sydney Opera House and I walk on stage, I was focused, I was ready, I was above the tank, ready to go in. I give the go, they start to lower me into the tank, and I hear the locks on the top getting closed. And I start to unfold my paperclip and I start doing what I've done hundreds of times in my rehearsals. And I'm looking for the keyhole and I can't find the keyhole. And 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. And I keep looking and I keep like sleeping and I can't find the keyhole. So I change, I go on the other hand, try to open the handcuff and I can't find the keyhole. I told them 30 seconds, 45, 1 minute. And then I start thinking, oh my God, I've been practicing for so many years and now I'm here on a major stage, that is going to boost my career. The producers are in the front row. There are journalists. There are 3,000 people watching. Oh my God, this is the end. I'm not going to make it. And so, I panicked and I couldn't hold my breath anymore. And I was confused. In that moment, I wanted to make it, but at the same time, I had to stop. And so I had very good trained assistants and they run on stage and they open all the tank and they dragged me out and they rescued me. So that was the very performance. But when it came out, I was conscious, I was fine, I was just very confused. And they say, okay, now you go in your dressing room. There are here the people for, the paramedics are here. They're going to take care of you. I say, no. In 20 minutes, I'm going to be on stage and I'm going to perform the act. They say, no, you don't have to do that. And I say, no, I need to do it now because otherwise this moment, this traumatic moment, my body will memorize it and then I will not be able to perform it anymore. I need to face immediately right now, And so they allow me to do it again. And I walk on stage. The audience was in total silence because if you were sitting there that night, you would see a man going to the water tank. And after a minute and a half that he's into it, you see people running on stage, screaming, going to unlock the tank, and the curtain closed. And so people didn't know if I was alive or not. And so when I walk on stage and I say, I'm going to try it again, people were like, really? Is he going to try again? And so the level of tension, you could cut it with a knife. And I performed it. And in that moment, I had the confidence of knowing that I could do it because I experienced the feeling of having that live audience in that moment. And so I knew I could move forward. And so I performed it and it was successful and people went crazy because there was, this moment of, the failure and then the success. So that was crazy.
It's just
That's
another
incredible.
lesson, for mind over matter. That if you put your mind to it, you got to get back in. And you're right. If you don't, it's reprogramming your DNA that you're going to be fearful of it if you wait. So it's awesome that you just went right back into it and completed. I would say completed the mission, like what you were assigned to do. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm quite stubborn. I mean, sometimes we have to accept to be defeated, but I knew it was a challenge with myself and I knew I was ready, the 99%, I just needed that 1% of the live situation to gain as an experience and then I could make it. And, since then I've been performing it and I'm here. So it's been successful.
You live a pretty exciting life, I think. And you travel back and forth. You were in New Jersey for a while and you're back in Italy. How have you, I think all of us had to deal with this, the COVID situation, because you're, a performer. And if you did a Facebook Live performance, you don't get that same interaction with the crowd. Have you done any kind of performances live on Facebook Live or live stream it anywhere? Or have you just kind of waited till this all has cleared so you can perform live in front of an audience?
I truly believe in the live performance, even though there has been some great performers who were able to create a virtual show and being very successful with it. So I think it can be an option during these times, doing virtual shows. It is a possibility. I did create a show, but as not being open to the public, as being only for private requests. That is called One-on-One Magic, and actually was a very fun process in the development of the show, because I thought, well, how is possible to interact with someone in terms of magic when you're not even in the same room, but you are like, at miles of distance, and actually through a screen. And so in the beginning, it was very challenging. And then slowly, I was able to develop some things that actually are very strong. Like, I think the best compliments I got was, if you were here to perform it live, it would have not been as strong as right now, because in the same room you are in control of the elements, and at distance, if I can't touch, I don't know, let's say you have a deck of cards, Jenny, in your hand, and I make things happen in your hand at distance, that can be very powerful compared to me and you being in the same room and I'm touching the cards and things like that. So actually was an interesting discovery. Now, I'm focusing, in getting ready for upcoming live performances, because that's where I want to go. And luckily, there are few places in the world that keep going with live entertainment, like Australia and New Zealand, that are the happy highlands of the world right now, away from the issue. Spain is not different than other countries in Europe in terms of the COVID situation, but they are applying some interesting protocols in terms of safety to let people access the theaters in a safe way, in a safe environment, and let the culture and the show industry, going.
Yeah, it's been a struggle. I'm glad you're able to perform again. You were here in Detroit, I think in 2016 or 17, and you stopped at obviously Houdini / performance was here in Detroit. He died in Detroit, and you stopped by the funeral home that is still up. And not too many people know about where it's at, but it's still there. And you do dabble in the paranormal a little bit. We've talked about this a few times, which we love doing anyway. So I think that was cool.
Yeah, I never forget the experience, and the next time I'll be in the area, I hope I will have the lucky chance to visit another place. It was very interesting. Actually, it was my very first time in an official, a paranormal investigation visit. Even though I think as a kid, I always been fascinated by the unknown and what is behind, the door. And if I have to choose, there is a room with the light on and one that is in total dark, I would go, to peek into the room with no light. And as a kid, Chelsea has something to say.
No, I would do the same exact thing. So you're not alone in that. It's intriguing to know what you cannot see and what's behind that door that is not lit up.
Yeah, and with my friends, as we were 8, 9, 10 years old, in the summer we would try to find the hotel that was abandoned, those places that they had that atmosphere. And I remember walking inside these places, and every single noise was for us something, and especially at that age, I think the imagination would make things create stories and thoughts, and it was very fascinating. And I think it's still something that I carry with me, the curiosity for the unknown. I'm very open in any possibility, and I would say I'm very eager to what the unknown has to offer.
And I think honestly, like magic and the paranormal are almost hand in hand in some sense. You know what I mean? Because magic's so, at least to us, I think it's kind of mystical in a way. You know what I mean? It's danger and darkness, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the paranormal. You've collected some of Houdini's artifacts, and I think you had a collar from Houdini. I think you had tested for DNA or something recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you start collecting Houdini artifacts and paraphernalia?
Well, I think when you get passionate as me about a person that was present in that was passed away, over 80 years ago. In a few years, it's going to be 100 years that Houdini passed away. And growing up, reading so many books about him, he becomes an actual present person in your life. So it has been my mentor from the other side. He had inspired me from the other world. So being able to own something that he touched, for me, was the dream of my life, because it was a way to be closer to him. I remember my first visit at the cemetery in New York. My first visit, people go to New York and they go to the Statue of Liberty, they go to see the Empire State Building. For me, it was going to Houdini's grave. That was my goal, because it was getting close to the man who inspired my life. And so the dream of collecting something that he touched, he owned, that has been, since then. And I was very lucky that in a recent auction, I was able to get like what is for me the holy grail of all Houdini's collectibles. And it was a piece of his shirt that he wore in one of his last shows. And we are going to have a test for the DNA in the coming months, because we would like to extract Houdini's DNA from it. And I do have a signature of Houdini. I have a piece of the glass of the water cell that actually exploded during a fire at the museum where it was displayed. So those things already were part of my collection, but definitely something that he was wearing, it's for me like the best thing ever. So I don't consider myself a collector, because a real collector would have, the pictures, the signatures, the books, and I'm very specific. I need to feel that piece as something in it. It's not about collecting; it's about feeling the object.
Well, objects hold so much energy. It's like just like going to a haunted location. Anything that you pick up that had a previous owner still has a little bit of their energy attached to it, and especially clothing. That's why they always say it's important to be careful when you go estate sale shopping, because you never know what you're going to get from the previous owner. Yeah. But I would be curious, since you do have a piece of something he wore, have you ever tried meditating with it, or seeing if you could channel in some kind of guidance from him from the other side?
That's very interesting, Jenny. I definitely would try that. At the moment, it is protected under glass, still wrapped in a protective plastic, because we want to avoid to contaminate with anything before the DNA testing. But after that, definitely that we will be able to actually touch it. I think I will do it. I mean, I did it on his grave, and I remember the incredible experience I had. That's been what I would call more than paranormal. For me, was a spiritual experience, because I remember it was winter, so it was very cold in New York, and the cemetery was totally empty. It was kind of windy, and I was kneeling on it with my hands on the grave, and I closed my eyes, and after a very long trip, I remember, and in that moment, I closed my eyes, and there was a dialogue between me and him that we've been talking, and I was there with one person that traveled with me, and when I opened my eyes, the person was sitting and waiting for me, and the person told me I was there for 1 hour and a half, something that I felt it was 2 minutes, but for an hour and a half I was laying there, and it's hard to explain. It was an incredible feeling that I keep with me till these days.
Well, time is the ultimate illusion, right? It doesn't really exist. It just seems like it exists.
Yeah.
What you've been Houdini has what, 5 museums, I think I read? A few in the United States. There's one in Budapest, I believe.
Yes, official ones. There was, well, public. There is no really much, because most of the stuff are part of private collections. But some people created very nice, a nice tribute to him, like the museum in Budapest. In New York, there is the actual house where Houdini was living. It's not a public museum, but I was able to visit that. I mean, the biggest museum was definitely on Niagara Falls, but then it was the one that got destroyed by the fire, so no longer there. But there is one in Scranton, Pennsylvania, from a famous female magician, Dorothy, wonderful lady. She had an incredible career, and she paid tribute to Houdini with a museum dedicated to him. So there is one there. Copperfield has a huge museum about magic, and of course, a big section about Houdini. So sometimes some museum, like public display, are shown, like in New York City. So different collectors, they may gather some important pieces. Like the Jewish Museum did that. So that was very nice. But Houdini stuff is pretty rare, and is usually in the hands of private collectors.
And I think, when people hear Houdini, there's that, like I say, mystery. And I think that even with your performance, it's mysterious and magical. And Houdini had said, he told his wife, I believe, when he passed away, that if there is an afterlife, or, he kind of didn't believe in the paranormal, but it seemed like he wanted to at some point. But he said if he'd be able to come back, if it was really true, he'd be able to come back and communicate. I would love to try and communicate with him. I'd love to go to, where he lived at one point. I think we talked about, I actually talked to the guy that owns a house in New York, coming there possibly. And, Jen and Chelsea maybe even going and try and use some spirit box or ghost box, see if there is a way to communicate with him. Because he did say he would be the one to come back and do that if it was possible. So I think there was more to him. There was more layers to him than what people know about. But it's just fascinating. He's like it's a legend. It's a legend and he's been dead, like you said, almost 100 years. But you say Houdini, everyone knows what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is a possible musical on Houdini coming up. So, I mean, they're still writing books. They're still making movies that may inspire a different movie. But, it's very strong after 100 years. And I think definitely, that's a sign that he was something different. He was able to create a special aura around himself that still exists today.
and he made an impact in the world that you are literally 2.0, like, and you're making an impact in the world, and everything's evolved since he's been gone. Like Todd has said, like the weight of chains, different compartments that you're using, it's not the same as what he did. And I remember my daughter, I had her watch one of her videos, and she was just like in awe, but she knew who Houdini was. It's just like the name has just been around for so many years, and she's like, he's doing exactly what Houdini did. I'm like, yeah, but he's he's the next one in line. But it's fascinating, and you are making an impact just like he did. It's intriguing, and people aren't afraid to step outside their comfort zone, because it's like paranormal. Like when you say, oh, what do you do for a living? Talk to dead people, and I go into haunted locations. Like it's not always perceived as a good thing. Same thing with magic, and it's just you're making an impact, you're doing good things along with being intriguing, and people are using different parts of their brain that they never used before, and people don't realize that until they actually sit down, listen, and watch.
Yeah, as Todd saying in. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, I think that the work you do is so profound because you're encouraging people to see the world from a different perspective. And, as time keeps evolving, we need to be thinking outside of the box. And literally every detail of what you do is thinking outside of the box. So it really promotes a healthy perspective, especially to the younger generations that are watching what you do and look up to you.
Well, thank you. I hope so. What Todd said in the beginning about, us having a different, strange interest for something. And I think the best thing when we actually keep believing in what we want to do and actually achieving what we dreamed of, I think it can help to inspire other people to not feel bad in being different. Because I think if I look back as a kid, I'm very proud of me as a kid that I didn't felt bad of being different than all the other kids. And I made it. I mean, I suffered definitely because I was maybe more alone, and I was not accepted. But then I made it a strength instead of a weakness, because I knew that my happiness was there where I wanted to be in terms of a performer, an illusionist, an escape artist. And so I think this is great. Doesn't matter what you do. In this case, definitely we have a particular and interest, all of us. But I think it can be of great inspiration to other people, not be afraid to dream anything.
I think it's a perfect example for kids to look at. You can do and be whatever you want to be. You know what I mean? I think all of us in our own way are examples of that. I know we all want to achieve more and go more and keep peeling those layers back to the other side. And it is unknown. It is supernatural. We're trying to find those answers. A lot of them are personal reasons. But I think if a kid sees something we do, and chase those dreams, chase those aspirations, and be whatever you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be without getting judged. I mean, we're here doing a show, and now it's mainstream. You could talk about weird stuff and stuff that might have been taboo years ago, but it's not now. And I think it can help people in other ways too, besides performing or investigating paranormal locations and some of the work Chelsea and Jen do. I think we can inspire people to do other things and use those in different aspects of their life. Just do what you want to do. Who cares? Be yourself.
One thing that I did love about his story about how he kind of got into magic, he made it clear, like, his mom didn't have patience for him to keep pulling cards and then not have it work. So his dad, was the main person, or he was in his room most of the time by himself. Like, it's okay. Like, if it's not accepted at that point in time, you keep moving forward. And if it's what you want to do, love yourself through the process. And everybody makes an impact in the world, even if you don't feel that, you've been tapped on the back or with it, and the comments that are coming in, like, we never stop learning, it's an inspiration to everyone who feels a little different or weird. Like, we need to embrace that. And it's something I love about his story and his journey so far, just getting to know him on that level, that he's he wasn't always accepted right away. And look where he is. He's making an impact, but he started here, you know?
And that's what I think. It's more. It's not.
And I
It's
think
about magic, but there's more to it. There's more to it. There's a story to tell, and Anne's got a story to tell.
Yeah.
Your whole life, Andrew, and growing up, and the things that you've seen and done, and the accomplishments you have already succeeded in your life, and where you're gonna go. And plus you're a great person. I love you to death. I think you're a great person to top it all off. So,
thank you.
It's been fun to watch.
Thank you. I was very lucky last year. I've been contacted by the #1 publisher in Italy for books, and they heard my story. A writer, Salvatore, heard my story in an interview, and he thought, we need to write a book about your story, because I think beside the incredible journey you had, your journey can be helpful and inspirational for other people who would like to achieve their dream, but they are missing some ingredients that your story has. And so we wrote a book. It's called Credi nell'impossibile. Now it's only in Italian. It's Believed Impossible, because when I was 8 years old and I say I want to be an international magician, I want to travel the world, nobody could believe that could have been a possibility. So Believed Impossible, no matter what you do, is the key to achieve at the end the ultimate happiness, because your happiness comes from many aspects, but definitely being able to do what you love in your life is the key.
That's right. Powerful.
Perfectly said.
You created a very magical life for yourself, just overall. Like every detail, I'm sure at this point kind of feels like living a dream.
Well, when I found myself touring US and the world in general, many times, when I was going to bed in a different hotel every week, I was like, I'm living the dream that I had 25 years ago. It took me 25 years. So maybe today we live in a world where if we don't see a result right away, that's not for me, and you can have someone next to you can say, yeah, I told you, you would have not gone very far with that. And instead, great results takes time. And I never looked back once, because for me, success is not what I achieved today in terms of contracts, in terms of how prestigious is the theater I'm walking in, or the newspaper article they dedicate to me. It's back then, when at 8 years old, I started right away to do what I love to do, and I never looked back. So even if back then I was performing for the birthdays of my friends, I was already doing what I loved. My dream was on a different scale, maybe with bigger, bigger magic, bigger illusions, with bigger props. It was just the size of the dream, but from day one, I started my journey, and for me, that is the real success, because it contains already the happiness of the dream.
That's right. And evolving. Every day you're learning something new, or you're better than where you were yesterday, and you thought you were good yesterday, and it's one powerful thing. It's crazy.
Yep.
Andrew, if you can see yourself in 10 years, what do you see yourself doing? Do you have any new tricks you're working on that you want to try to do, or where do you see yourself?
So I'm gonna be 45. So at 45, I will be even in better shape than I am right now, and I'm gonna be still hanging above a water tank and create even crazier stuff. Yes. I think, yeah.
I believe it.
I mean, who would have thought? Like, where are you 10 years, hanging above a water tank still?
Oh yeah. If yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be definitely. I'm sure I will mature uh, more ideas. I will grow up as a performer, as an artist. I will gather much more experience. So I think things are gonna be even better than they are right now. But I don't think I'm gonna slow down of a second.
Awesome.
We hope not. I really thoroughly enjoy what you do. I really do. And when you come back over to the States, we got to do some paranormal investigating.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Now, if you go on my Facebook page, I reposted it recently. So if you scroll down to my Facebook page, it's going to be one of the between the last 10, 15 posts, a picture of me standing in front of the Houdini's funeral home. And for the friends of the paranormal, there has been something crazy that happened there, because I took the picture. It was a picture of the interesting places I visited, and then I posted it, and I received a message after 1 month that I post the picture that back then was on my website, and somebody say, "Have you seen on the upper side of the house in the window?" And I'm like, "What?" Look closely, and I go to see the picture, and I zoom in, and I screamed. I jumped from the chair, and then I look back, and there was this figure. There is this face. There is this something that looks like Houdini looking down from the window, and so that was, I think, one of my first, most recent paranormal, experiences. Definitely, yeah.
So Andrew is going to be our trigger if we go back to this funeral home.
Yes.
Probably.
It's in Detroit. It's still up. And when he posted that, he texted me, said, "What do you see?" And I said, I saw that face. When I zoomed in, I could see that face. And that, yeah, it's and that's what happens even with paranormal. You got to go back over your photos, because a lot of times you look, when you zoom in on stuff, you see strange things that you don't even notice.
And sometimes your eyes don't see it. Like, he didn't see it. He just posted it. It was a cool photo. And then someone else is like, hey, take a look. And then your eyes adapt to that photo. It's like, again, to like your senses. That's crazy. I'm going to have to take a look.
Yeah, please do. And also, I posted a bunch of interesting interviews with like people who, in one way or the other, have been part of Houdini's life. The owner of the Houdini's house in New York, or a particular collector. And next is going to be an actual member of the family of Houdini, like the only one that is connected with the family of Houdini today.
Wow.
Oh, that's really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think if anybody's going to contact Houdini, it's going to be you.
Yeah,
I think you're going to do it.
So.
You're going to channel him. It's going to be groundbreaking.
I'll need your help, because in terms of channeling, I don't know how many channels on which channel. I don't know which channel, actually.
We channel a lot.
Okay.
Andrew, we got a couple minutes left. Where can people find you, and where are you going to be performing next?
Well, during this COVID era, right now for 2021, Madrid, Spain, from the 21st of February till March 14 is going to be where I'm going to perform, and I feel very blessed for this opportunity. Next is still a big question mark, because the entertainment industry, it's hoping to open soon, but we'll see. So let's cross finger on that. Beside that, my Facebook page, my Instagram page, I'm on TikTok as well, where I'm teaching people how to escape from things. So that's a different thing I'm doing right now. So now Clubhouse started. I'm going to start doing something there as well. So I'm pretty much on social media. Please, if you're watching this, connect with me. We'll be very glad to have, your perspective on my things, because people with your interest. It's a different world from mine, but there is a lot in common. So it would be very interesting to be in touch with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's different, but there's a lot of common things between us, which is really, really cool. But Houdini's always that, because it happened here in Detroit. I've always wanted to see if we could, Jen and Chelsea, when you come back to town, maybe we can go there and see. I don't know if we can get something. It's a crazy story.
And I'm gassing up my car.
I am down as soon as possible, please.
And it gets warmer. We're in like a foot of snow right now. It just keeps snowing every day. So when it gets warmer, we'll venture out and check that out.
Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
But Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. I thoroughly enjoy everything you do. You're a great person.
Thank you.
You have a great personality, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you,
Thank
Andrew.
you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I met you virtually, but this is a good sign that we're gonna meet in person someday. So
I think we will.
And I'll bring the color with me, and so let's see what happens.
Yes.
Yes, yes, I'm so excited.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Bye,
Ciao from
everyone.
Italy. Ciao. Ciao. Ciao.